Hello, everybody. Welcome to our regular monthly live stream on the Roman Catholic Media Channel. I'm Stephen Heiner, and with us for these live streams, as always, is His Excellency Bishop Donald Sanborn. Hello, Your Excellency.
Hello, Stephen.
It's been about a month since our last live stream, but the seminary is back in session.
It is.
How's it been?
The startup is usually not difficult, but it has little problems, little glitches. We've changed the schedule 3 times already, which is normal. That's quite normal. It's like putting on a new pair of shoes. When you have to struggle a little bit.
Okay,
but it's fine. We have a good group.
Are there any new nations represented in the class?
I don't think so. No, that's not that I can think of right now. Well, India.
Okay.
Yes.
That's unusual.
That is, yes. Who comes via Alaska.
Even more unusual.
He was studying something to do with petroleum, the extraction of petroleum in a university in Alaska, and he decided to join the seminary.
Okay, but we'll pray for his perseverance. We'll start with some of the questions that were already in the stream. If you are coming into the stream now, remember to hit the like button. This helps the video and the algorithm, and also let us know where you are watching the video from today and how many times you've watched the live stream. So I think I'll add one more question to today's prompts. So this first is from Jimmy Hunjin for 50 pounds. Thank you, Jimmy. Since Bob Golio has surrendered any pretense to the Petrine supremacy in one of his recent statements, is this the beginning of the dismantling of Vatican I? I recall that Bergi referred to himself as Bishop of Rome.
Yes, so practically the first thing that Bergoglio said on coming out to the balcony, he said, "I'm the Bishop of Rome," and refused certain things that were typically done by popes on the balcony. But what is far worse is what Leo said, and that is that we should not be vying. He's referring to the Orthodox. We should not be vying for primacy, and then cited the incident in the Gospels where the apostles were vying for primacy in what they thought would be an earthly kingdom. So it is a total misappropriation and misapplication of that gospel story. I wonder, well, I know where he did his theology, but you would never do that. They thought our Lord was going to go to Jerusalem on a horse and conquer everybody and throw out the Romans. And, I want a place in your kingdom. No, but what he said was reduces the papal primacy to merely a spat between Constantinople and Rome that should be done away with. And that is against the definitions of the Vatican Council of 1870, commonly known as Vatican I. It's implicitly a heresy that we should not vie for the supremacy. We are the supremacy. Rome is supreme. And in order for you to return, you must accept the Roman primacy. That's the Catholic position.
And it has been accepted by the East numerous times, Your Excellency, most recently in Florence Ferrara, but it seems the people don't want to have anything to do with what their monarchs...
Well, already Photius, who was the originator of the schism in the 9th century, he repented and recanted and was received back. And then there was 200 or 300 years of union. And then there was Michael Cerularius, who was the Archbishop of Constantinople, who made the schism in the 1000s. And but then in the 13th century, the Orthodox bishops came to Lyon and the Council of Lyon, the Second Council of Lyon, and they agreed to all of the primacy of the Roman Pontiff, etc. And they sang 3 times Filioque. Filioque, filioque, filioque. So, they just returned on all of the with all of the terms that Rome imposed upon them. And they went back, and their people said, "We don't want it." And then so they went back into schism. Then in Florence in the 1420s, 1430s, they again submitted to Rome, and then they went back, and the people didn't want it, and so that's where we have it. So they have not a single leg to stand on with regard to their so-called supremacy or their title, whatever they want, because they admitted to Rome many times that Rome is supreme.
Yeah, to say nothing of famous quotes from councils like Peter has spoken through Leo.
Yes, that's the Council of Chalcedon. Leo the Great sent a dogmatic letter. That's the title of it. And it was read at Chalcedon, and there was only one Western bishop in Chalcedon. And so so all of these Eastern bishops said Peter has spoken through Leo, and accepted the dogmatic letter of Leo. I mean, the history of it is so clear; they have nothing to make any kind of case about. And who established the Patriarchate of Constantinople? The Roman Pontiff.
I know it. That's what's always so funny when they talk about autocephaly, Your Excellency, and that the Constantinople has given autocephaly to, let's say, Bulgaria or wherever else. By what authority? By what authority do they do any of those things?
It's all absurd. But it looks as though Leo is going to give away the store on that. And as if that's the only question. I mean, they have generated heresies in their schism for all of these centuries. They don't believe in purgatory. They don't believe in the Immaculate Conception. They do permit divorce and remarriage, just to mention a few. And their saints, Saint Photius, for example, is one of their saints. I mean, are we supposed to put that in the litany, Saint Photius? I mean, as if the supremacy of Rome were the only question. They're loaded with heresies.
Russian Orthodoxy has 9 reasons that you can be divorced, Your Excellency, and treason is one of them.
Really? Yes.
All right, Sedevacantis Groiper for $2. Thank you, Sede Groiper. Is His Excellency a Groiper? Does he like Fuentes? Inevitably, this sort of question is going to come up in the stream, Your Excellency. Do you know who Nick Fuentes is?
I don't know what a Groiper is, and I don't know who Fuentes is. I never heard of him in my whole life. So I can't answer the question.
I think this is probably, Your Excellency, because you're just not on the internet that much, but he is one of these young men who are advocating for America first, you could say, and Groiper is a term that refers to people in this movement.
Okay.
So hopefully that answers the question there. His Excellency doesn't know. Damiano von Costas, $5. Could His Excellency comment on whether internet piracy is a sin? And to clarify, Your Excellency, this means, for example, instead of paying for a specific software product, you find it somewhere and download it for free.
It would be a sin if you are killing a sale. In other words, if somebody has produced a product and is legitimately selling it, and you somehow grab it in another way without paying for it, and therefore without reimbursing the person for his trouble and time in creating whatever the product is, yes, that would be a sin against the 7th commandment.
When do priests pray matins? Is it when they wake up? If so, does lauds immediately succeed matins, or do secular priests pray it whenever best works for them?
Well, matins is meant to be said at 2 a.m., all right? And secular priests do not get up at 2 a.m. and say matins. And also lauds comes right after matins, so those are always connected. So no, the secular priest will say his office during the day when the opportunity presents itself. So ideally you're supposed to say each hour at the time that it's meant to be said, like 9, noon, and 3, and vespers at 5, and Compline before you go to bed. But sometimes it doesn't work out that way because of travel, because of all sorts of demands on the priest's time.
So we have people from Poland, Ireland, Columbus, Ohio, St. Louis, Donegal, Ireland, Tampa. Ireland's well represented, Your Excellency. Croatia, another person from Ireland. It's late in Ireland. $5 from Christ is King. Are you going to respond to Mr. Hudson's recently published article critiquing the RCI's stance on Una Cum and on refusing sacraments to those who attend it?
No, well, actually, I didn't read it, so I don't even know what he says. But the problem of Una Cum has been already solved and answered many times. It's as simple as this. The Mass is not a devotion. It's not a personal devotion. It is an act of the whole church. The principal priest is Christ. The priest, the human priest, is an instrument which Christ is using for his sacrifice that he is offering eternally in heaven. All right, so that is a very important point to understand about Una Cum. In order for a Mass to be Catholic, therefore, it has to be in union with the hierarchy of the Catholic Church. That means it has to be authorized by the hierarchy of the Catholic Church from the Pope on down. So the Pope, the bishop, pastor, etc. So if it is not in union with the Roman Catholic hierarchy, if a Mass is offered by someone who is unauthorized to offer it, it is not a Catholic Mass, even if it should be 1,000% valid. It is not a Catholic Mass because it is not in union with the hierarchy, ultimately not in union with Christ, the head of the church. All right, that said, if either Leo is the Pope or he is not the Pope. If he is the Pope, the Una Cum Mass that is offered outside of his authority is not a Catholic Mass because it is not authorized by him or by the local bishop. It is what St. Augustine calls setting up altar against altar. It is schismatic objectively, and I'm talking only objectively here. I'm not talking about any kind of good intentions that people may have, and I think most of the people that go there have perfectly good intentions. But I'm talking objectively. That is not a Catholic Mass because it is outside of the Roman Catholic hierarchy. It is like a Greek Orthodox Mass that could be valid, or he is not the Pope, and in that case, to declare that the Mass is offered in union with him, and Una Cum means that. It is not merely a prayer for him. Then you are offering the Mass in union with a false Pope, objectively, and therefore it is outside of the church. So no matter which way you slice it, it's a schismatic Mass. And again, everyone that goes to it, I'm sure, is in good conscience. I'm not saying anything about them. I'm just saying objectively this is true. St. Thomas says that the priest at the altar acts not only in persona Christi, because he says the words of consecration, that means in the person of Christ, but also in persona ecclesiae, that is in the person of the church, that is as a representative of the church, because the Mass is an action of the whole church. It is not merely a personal devotion of the priest. It is not something like miraculous medal devotions, where all of the activity comes from the people and the priest merely leads them. It is a sacrifice. It is the sacrifice of the cross, the sacrifice of the church offered by an agent of the church, namely an authorized priest. All right, so that's the theology of it. So objectively, no matter which way you go on Leo, it is a schismatic Mass. You see, objectively. And if you know that, you see, if you know this man is not the Pope and you go to a Mass that is in union with him, you are sinning by being there and consenting to, by your active participation in something that is objectively schismatic, and that's a mortal sin.
I think I had solved this for myself many years ago, Your Excellency, but regarding Una Cum, thanks to Father Chicada and thanks to some of your work. I will never understand why people need a justification to go to the SSPX. This is ultimately what it is. If you're looking for a reason to, who has the most Una Cum masses in the United States or in many other places. So
you have SSP and all those.
Right. Well, I mean, no valid masses, not many valid masses there.
That's right.
But if you're seeking a justification to go to the SSPX, anybody can write an article to help you justify that stance. But it doesn't make any sense if you're a sedevacantist, as you pointed out already.
No, it makes no sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then it's absolutely wrong. And nobody has to be told that.
So Tom Mastriani for $20. Thank you, Tom. Your Excellency, how do you engage with news and current events? What virtues and practical habits should Catholics use to discern media wisely and avoid sensationalism, propaganda, and scandal. Thank you and God bless.
Don't look at the media. That's the best thing. No, no. Again, you have to pick your sources. I mean, I would just use sources that you know are reliable. There's so much on the internet that is unreliable, and there's a lot of things on the internet that are just sensational, as you say. I'd say pick your sources and take everything to a certain extent with a grain of salt, and then so you have to determine what's true, what's false, and don't just get on a bandwagon, so to speak. I think you have to be critical about what you're looking at and have a certain reserve of judgment. That's what I do. I mean, I look at the news and I don't necessarily swallow it all down.
Well, grain of salt, then you have CNN, and then you need to salt mine probably.
Well, you wouldn't even bother looking at that stuff. One that is, I think, pretty objective, at least, is Newsmax.
Okay.
They are pretty sober, and there's in my Fox News, there's a lot of sensationalism on Fox News.
Got to pay the bills somehow, Your Excellency.
Right.
So we have people from Philadelphia, the Franciscan University of Steubenville, Darwin, Australia, Tukwila, Washington, Toronto, Riverton, New Jersey.
Okay, I wonder who that is.
We know who that might be. From Tuk Town, Vietnam, Croatia again. So again, well represented here.
Mm-hmm.
The Santos lives for $5. Thank you, Santos. How hard should we push our Novus Ordo parish priests? Charity is difficult.
That's a hard question to understand. I would just stay away from your Novus Ordo parish priests. I mean, there's nothing that they can offer you. It's a different religion, so you just like you would stay away from a Protestant minister. That's what I would say.
So this person, maybe he's speaking from the perspective of still being in the Novus Ordo, Your Excellency, as we have quite a few people who actually are in the Novus Ordo watching some of these streams and maybe trying to get out. I suppose maybe send him to a website or two.
Well, what we can't live with is a coexistence of Novus Ordo and tradition. That is something that the Catholic Church cannot live with. That is not Catholic, where you're why don't you say the traditional Latin Mass once in a while, and where a priest is on both sides of the wall, so to speak. And what the SSPX is looking for, and what FSSP is already, in other words, a side chapel of tradition in the modernist cathedral. That is something that is not compatible with Roman Catholicism. The new religion, the Novus Ordo, is a new religion. It's got to go. And we have to insist on that someday it go.
So Father LeMay had written a question for me regarding my contact info. Father, I will make sure that I send you my contact information. I can't do it here on a live stream. Donald O'Brien for $10. Thank you, Donald. And strangely, Your Excellency, Donald repeats almost word for word the exact same question that we already had, almost as if there had been a coordinating email or telegram message sent out to make sure this question came out on the stream. But word for word, almost the exact same question. Donald, this question has been asked and answered. So if you are coming on late to the stream, feel free either when the stream ends, you can go back, I think maybe 6 minutes from this point, and you can find the answer to your question. Santos, $5. His Excellency is better than our parish priests. He's heard of Fuentes. These guys have no awareness of alternative narratives. Well, Santos, His Excellency said he has not heard of Nick Fuentes. So that was the answer to that question.
I have no idea.
Tasmania, Australia. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Not so very far away, Your Excellency.
No.
Again, Father LeMay using the live stream for personal questions, Your Excellency, but we have to. It's a priest, so he always has priority. Has His Excellency received the 2 cards I sent him for his priestly and episcopal anniversaries? 4 stamps were used.
Yes, I did. Tell him I will call him this week.
So we have Eastern Long Island, New York represented. Jimmy Hunjin for £10. Does His Excellency have many memories of the apostolic visitation to Akon in the 1970s? Were these men handpicked by Montini?
Yes, I was interviewed by them. I think it was early 1974. As I recall, it was cold out. So it must have been, I'm going to guess like February of 1974. It was after well, maybe not, because it was after he made his declaration, which really irritated the modernists. It was a wonderful declaration. Yes, they interviewed me, and they asked me a whole bunch of questions. They were both modernists. I mean, I gave them very Catholic answers. And at the end, they said, "Oh, by the way, you're a very nice guy." That's what
the greatest compliment that can be bestowed in the Novus Ordo, Your Excellency. You're a nice guy.
I was surprised because my answers were rather hostile. I mean, I was not a very nice guy in the interview, but yes, and I assume they were handpicked by Montini. One was the rector of, or the former rector, I think, of Louvain. So these people were high up.
So it looks like the internet says the decision to have a visit was in June of 74, and the apostolic visitation happened November 11 through 13, 1974.
Okay, so I remember it was cold out, yes.
1974, just around the corner, Your Excellency, not that many years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's only 51 years ago.
Debbie Johns, $20. This was a super sticker. Debbie, thank you very much for your donation. If you have a question, just please put it in the chat, and I will do my best to fish it out. You don't need to do another super chat to ask a question. Pius German, €12. Thank you, Pius. Your Excellency, thank you for doing live streams. What do you make of the SSPX pilgrimage to Rome? So I think that first question, Your Excellency, also has to be annotated that the pilgrimage was recently removed from the official events list. And
oh, really?
Yes. Where can I go to Mass next to Cologne, Germany?
Well, as far as the SSPX pilgrimage, again, it is this idea that we can coexist with modernism, that they can walk into St. Peter's Basilica and big parade, so to speak, and here we are. We want to be part of you. That was the message. You should accept us. They aspire to be this side chapel of tradition in the modernist cathedral. That is something that's a mixture of religions, which is impossible in Roman Catholicism. I mean, if you look at Archbishop Lefebvre's statements over the years, they are very, very negative about the Novus Ordo, and he he condemned it many times and condemned the new Mass and religious liberty, et cetera, et cetera. Vatican II. We can't live with that stuff. The church is one, and its faith is one. It's the first unity of the church is the unity of faith. We cannot share a church with these people. So the very idea that they are, giving their approval to the modernists in Rome is unacceptable. But what really puts the icing on the cake is that the LGBTQ people are going to make the same procession on the list as well as they were on the list in September or October, I think, in the next few months, and that says it all. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean,
dare we watch the video coverage of such a procession? The SSPX were quietly removed. I think the Catholic Herald led that story, but a few days ago it was noticed that they were officially, quietly removed. No fanfare about it. So I don't think they'll be talking about that anytime soon.
I mean, they will have to accept Vatican II the way the modernists want them to, and they'll have to accept the new Mass the way the modernists want them to. Otherwise, there's no hope for them. And I think they would be much better off by giving up hope and going back to the old way, and that is to be opposed to modernism fair and square. In other words, to just condemn it. They have not been vocal about it for 20 years. And they should. Archbishop Lefebvre was always attacking it, it's a failed, a failed endeavor, I would say, despite their numbers. But it's failed because they are not doing what the church needs to be done.
Might it not be said, Your Excellency, though, that this is following in the footsteps of a man who pleaded for the experiment of tradition to be allowed to continue?
Yes, that's the other side of Archbishop Lefebvre. When the weather was good in Rome, then he was soft, and then concessions were made. He stopped doing confirmations in France, conditional confirmations in France, because he didn't want to irritate the Vatican. He recognized the validity of Novus Ordo consecrations of bishops, because obviously you can't do ecumenism with the Vatican if you're saying their sacraments are invalid. And he never wanted to say that the new Mass was invalid for the same reason. So it's which side of Archbishop Lefebvre you want to follow. But I think the truer side of Archbishop Lefebvre was opposition. If I interacted with him for many years, and I would say his truer side was a hatred of modernism and an opposition to what is going on in the church today. I think that is his truer side. And, yes, he was ambivalent and incoherent, but in my opinion, that was his true side.
Gaudete in Domino, has His Excellency ever visited the Holy Land? Would he consider visiting?
No and no.
Santos lives $5. I watch you teaching the seminarians daily. I'm a tile installer. I listen to His Excellency as I work. Thank you. So, Your Excellency, as people are on the job, they are being taught seminary classes.
Well, they better listen hard, because there's some really abstract things going on in there, as far as theology and philosophy and so forth. So, yeah.
So we have some revisitations from the article, Your Excellency, from Donald O'Brien, $10. If all you said is true concerning the so-called Unicum Mass, then how did the Church not defect in her liturgy from 1958 to 1969? All of these masses commemorated Roncalli and Montini.
How did the Church not defect? I would say that those were masses that were objectively schismatic. I mean, they were false Roman pontiffs. And so the same principles apply.
I think the assumption there, too, Your Excellency, is that we somehow know what all the priests were doing from 1958 to 1969, that there were no people who had already figured things out, and there was no internet at the time, so they couldn't make any declaration or talk about what was going on.
Yes, and the awareness of what they were doing was imperfect too. So but still, I mean, I'm talking objectively. I'm not talking about the priest's intentions or anybody's good intentions or their ignorance about what's going on. I'm talking about objectivity here.
And I think there, as you pointed out before, Your Excellency, there is some question. There's still some work to be done on John the 23rd that I think it has been recognized that the Declaration of Religious Liberty is a breaking point. But the question is before and after that period as to, when did someone become an anti-pope? I think you said before that there still needs to be work done.
Yes, I mean, John the 23rd, I'd say the strong arguments for his intention. In other words, his intention to revolutionize the church, to transform the church into something modernist. And that you can see from his background. He was always a modernist from the time of the 1890s. In the seminary, and all of his friends were modernists, etc. So, I mean, has a very, very strong history of modernism. And the idea of transforming the Catholic Church into a modernist religion, I think certainly existed in his mind. And that would be an intention which would invalidate his ability to have authority over the Catholic Church. That is not as clear, you might say, or that I would say that's a probability. The promulgation of the Council in 1965 was the point where the heresies of the Second Vatican Council were made universal doctrine, and that's where you have a clear break with tradition and a promulgation of something that is contrary to faith, and that the Church cannot do. So I would say, there was a probability with John the 23rd, and that's especially seen in hindsight. I mean, I was alive in believe it or not. I guess you can believe it. In 1958, nobody ever thought of him as a false pope. I mean, it was just, I mean, it wasn't even a thought. And the council seemed to be the idea of a council seemed to be something like, well, we're going to have the mass in English or something like that. I remember it. I mean, it wasn't the idea of overthrowing the Catholic Church. The idea was that there's going to be some English and this, relaxation of certain rules, etc.
All right, so if you are just coming into the stream, please remember to hit the like button and let us know where you're from and how often you are watching these streams. Fair to remember for $12. Thank you, Fair. Friendly observation, the two Donald J's not from Brooklyn, from Queens. The two Donald J's from Queens are both great fans of Gold Leafy.
Yes. Yes, I saw what Trump did in the office. I think somebody said it looks gaudy, and I think it does look gaudy. The White House is not the Elysee Palace in Paris. And you can't put that stuff up on the fireplace behind the chairs in imitation of what the Elysee Palace looks like in Paris or other places.
Or Versailles.
Or Versailles. I mean, it just doesn't go. America is very Republican in the sense that its leaders are not decorated, you might say. They're very civil, and the White House has always been low key. People commenting, like foreigners commenting on looking at the White House, they said, "I thought it was going to be much bigger." They're expecting Buckingham Palace.
Right.
The idea was the division of government, etc., where you don't have a monarch, but you have a president. So that's why it was always low key. But you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I mean, just to put on all of that decoration with a gold leaf behind you does look to me a little ridiculous. Yes. And I don't know how the French feel about it, but they probably feel the same way. They probably laugh at it. But even the Elysee Palace in Paris is something that is very, very decorated in Baroque. That's where the president lives in Paris.
So Matthew, $10. Thank you, Matthew. Controversial topic on Twitter lately, crying babies at Mass. What to do? Should they be there? If your church ain't crying, it's dying. Seems problematic.
That's true. A quiet church is a dying church. That's true. So, but the babies are going to cry, and people have to bring their babies now. It used to be that when you could walk to church, the husband would go to the early Mass, and the wife would stay back with the babies, and then he would come home, and then she would go to Mass. So you didn't have so many babies. Mass was maybe 10 minutes away, or the most 15-minute walk in most big cities, etc. So that problem didn't exist. There was no such thing as a cry room in my church. I didn't know what a cry room was when somebody told me, what's a cry room?
You didn't even know there was a bathroom, Your Excellency.
I didn't know there was a bathroom, but there was no cry room. And people, the other thing is that if you had small babies, the mother stayed home with them. See, that's a legitimate reason to miss Mass, is the care of the very young or the very old or the sick. That's a legitimate reason. So sometimes they would alternate, the mother and the father would alternate going to Mass on Sundays. But now people drive, they have to take their kids. The only thing I would say to them is, when your kid acts up, take him out. So in other words, do not try to hush him up. And while the priest is giving a sermon, that is very, very, very distracting, not only to the priest, but also to all the people around. Oh, baby, you shouldn't be doing this now. And just leave, go into the vestibule, or if the weather is good, go outside and try to calm the baby. That's what they should do. Just get out.
It almost sounds like you're speaking from experience, Your Excellency.
I'm 50 years ordained. I've heard a lot of babies over my time, but it's distracting to people around them. And they're used to it. They hear it all day long. But, people around them don't hear it all day long, and they're trying to listen to the priest.
Pius reminds us that he's from Cologne, and I have to pick
up that, so I didn't answer that question. I have no idea what the traditional Masses are in Germany.
But that Cologne's a couple hours from Belgium or the Netherlands, and the IMBC have traditional Masses there.
Yes, they have. Yes, in Belgium. That's the closest thing that I know of. But Germany is... I have no idea what's in Germany. There used to be a Father Weinzierl, but he died. He was in southern Germany, though, down by Lake Constance.
The UK, High Spire, Pennsylvania. Do you know where that is, Your Excellency?
Yes, I think it's in the Philadelphia area, if I'm not mistaken.
England, Arkansas. All right. Fair to remember for $12. Thank you, Fair. We are supposed to ask for humiliations, but it is very difficult to do so. How does a person do so genuinely, and how to act when those humiliations come?
Well, if you're perfect, you will pray for humiliations. Humiliations, Saint Bernard of Clairvaux said, the way of humility is humiliation. That's how you become humble, by humiliations. And so if you are very devout, you will want humiliations. I always tell people it's like getting a gold coin, and that's worth about $3,600 now. So see, pride is, as St. Thomas says, is the greatest obstacle to grace. So you want to kill off pride. That's excessive self-love, disordered self-love. And what kills it off is humiliation, right? So it's a terrible thing. Pray for humiliations because they're very hard. They're hard on that rock of pride. And so when they come, you accept them graciously, and you thank God for it, And as the saints did, when they're falsely accused, they would not say anything in their defense many times. There's many examples of humiliations with saints, where the brother of Saint Thomas Aquinas, the brother thought that he was in Naples, and he thought he was just another brother. And he said, I want you to come with me to help go shopping. And St. Thomas had a bad leg. This was in his old age. And the brother turned around as they were walking and scolded him for walking so slowly. And so St. Thomas went shopping with him and came back with food and etc. And then the poor brother found out who he was. This is at the peak of his career, where he had been in Paris and all of these, teaching in all of these great schools and everything. This theologian, the best in the world, unsurpassed. He found the poor brother. He must have died. Talk about the humiliation. First, St. Thomas rejoiced in the humiliation. Then you could imagine the poor brother, how humiliated he was. So that's a famous story.
That's wonderful. Humiliations for everybody all around, Your Excellency. It was a good opportunity.
But humiliations are hard to take because of that rock of pride that's in all of us. Saint Francis de Sales says, pride doesn't die until we're lowered into the grave.
Jimmy Hunjin, £5. I hope someone places these two pilgrimages side by side with the caption, both approved by the Vatican. Congratulations.
Yes. No, I think that says it all. I mean, that's the openness of the Novus Ordo to everything. It's the big top of the circus.
Damiano von Costas for $10. Thank you, Damiano. Stephen, when will there be another questions for the rector? I'll just answer that quickly. We do a lot of pre-recorded shows, Damiano, for questions for the rector. I am not currently at the seminary, but I will be in the next few weeks. But we are considering, I haven't gotten this approved by His Excellency yet, but we are considering doing some live questions for the rector on the MHT channel to correspond to this Roman Catholic Media live stream. So maybe you'll see something live, but that has to be approved by His Excellency. Does His Excellency know the history behind Molinism and what literature he would recommend to read about it and why it's problematic?
Yes, Molinism was developed by the Jesuits. The Jesuits, they were organized to fight Protestantism. And Protestantism held to predestinationism and theories of grace, that you were something like a robot by grace. You were just moved around or dragged around by grace, and that there was no free will involved. Luther actually denied free will. So that's what they were fighting against. So they wanted a system of grace that would emphasize free will. And they thought that the Thomist system of grace de-emphasized it too much, that there was not enough in it. See that the Jesuits were always what we call outcome oriented. In other words, we need something to fight with, and so we need a system that will answer the Protestants. And they didn't think that Thomism would do the job. So Molina was the famous theologian who cooked up Molinism. All right. And so that's the history of it. Garrigou Lagrange is very, very good on it. He wrote, I think, his De Grazia on grace is translated into English, but there's another work in which he talks about it. But I'm pretty sure that's in English, and I think it's available on grace. And he's very clear on it. He was very hard on the Jesuits for that reason, for Molinism. But I would be too complicated to go into the whole question right now. It's the questions on grace are very complex.
So just revisiting Pius, who didn't know about the Belgium or Netherlands masses, so I just put in the chat a link to the IMBC's website, which has the masses. And as I said, it's probably a couple-hour train ride.
I know Father Steenbergen says mass in Germany.
Okay, so then even better.
So that could be on their website.
So if you simply go to that website that I linked to and send a contact us form, I know they will get back to you. They're quite efficient in that way. Giselle Demers, 20 Canadian dollars. Thank you, Giselle. Just want to say thank you for considering us in your seminary classes. The apologetic course and the book are a very good rational workout.
Yes, thank you. It is a very complete book. It was Garrigou Lagrange's biggest and greatest work. But there are some difficult passages in it for the layperson. But just be patient with it, because it's not all like that, So it's not just one big abstract thing. There's a lot in it that is very interesting and available to even the average layperson.
LDP for $5. Thank you, LDP. Were all of the Psalms written by King David? What sources can we use to learn more about their authorship?
No, it is commonly held, even by very reliable theologians today, that not all the Psalms are written by King David. Many of them are clearly written after the Babylonian captivity, or during the Babylonian captivity, which was 550s, I think, BC rather. And that was the 70 years that the Jews spent in Babylon, having been transported there by Nebuchadnezzar, who wrecked Jerusalem, including the temple. So there's evidence of that. There's a very good book by Filion, which is also available. It's called The New Psalter, but it's not referring to anything new. It was written, I think, in 1920 or something. It refers to Pius X's reorganization of the Psalter, that is, how the Psalms are said in the breviary. And so he changed around the arrangement of it from what was existing under Leo XIII. That was known as the New Psalter. So, but it's very traditional. Filion was a great author, very anti-rationalist, and he explains each psalm. So I think that would be a very good source for him.
Okay. The American Center Privation is $5. Would His Excellency be open to doing an interview in German on the thesis in Vatican II?
Das ist interessant, aber ich spreche Deutsch nicht so gut als nein.
I suppose the question, but I mean, the question would be who the interviewer would be. And as His Excellency just said, that his German is not.
It's not good enough for
an interview.
Oh my goodness, no.
Jimmy.
No.
Jimmy Hudgen for £50. Thank you, Jimmy. I had read that Paul VI revealed to Jean Guiton that he didn't consider himself to have a vocation in the traditional sense. Has His Excellency heard this? Did Montini simply view the church as a tool to achieve a naturalistic peace on earth?
Well, I never heard that he said that to Jean Guiton. I was never really a student of Paul VI in the sense of studying him so much. Well, Montini, again, was a modernist. He was a modernist his whole life. And yes, the whole idea of Vatican II was to change the church into something that would be at the service of humanity, making the earth a better place in which to live. See, and we see this theme constantly in Leo. Constantly. He hardly ever says anything supernatural less even than what Bergoglio was, has said. Everything it turns into this making the earth a better place and love, as he says, and things that are purely naturalistic. That is the idea of the Novus Ordo, is that religion is at the service of humanity to make the earth a better place in which to live. So that's why he spent 100 million euros on a solar farm north of Rome. Here, the Vatican was in debt for something like 90 something million euros. But then, and then he's the one complaining about, the poor. What about that 100 million euros? Where could that have gone? How much electricity does the Vatican use, after all? It's not a factory. There's a few lights that are on, or maybe something like that. But it's not a factory. I think the Italian grid system could uphold the Vatican. But it's this virtue signaling. You see, we're going to be the first totally, green country, the Vatican. It's also stupid. What about that 100 million? What about giving that to maybe some of the people that are starving in Gaza, for example? That would have come in very handy if the wrong people didn't get their hands on it. But I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that could have been done with that $100 million rather than installing some stupid thing for electricity in the Vatican. 100 million dollars, not euros. That's about 110 million dollars. So, but everything is that his whole emphasis is on making the earth a better place.
Had you heard?
He's the high priest of the climate change religion. So he made a new mass actually for the conversion of those who don't believe in climate change. Conversion, as if it's some sort of a religion.
Right. Well, for some people it is, Your Excellency.
Yeah.
Had you heard this quote about Paul VI and Jean Guiton?
No, I never heard that. It's the first time I've heard it.
We have people in Western Maryland, Hialeah, Florida, Portland, Maine, Hialeah, Arizona, Port St. Lucie, Florida, Toronto, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, not so very far away, Arizona, Peru, Louisiana, and Your Excellency, there's a Christian Ingham in Brooksville, Florida. That's his. I know him. Hello, Father. Marie Catherine, $2. Thank you, Marie. Are Vatican II popes judged by God as if they were popes?
I don't know, because I'm not God. And we don't know what judgment is in store for anybody. And so I just can't answer that question. I think that the way God sees it is that these people have usurped in a certain way the papacy by their failure to promote the Catholic faith, and they're imposing a false religion. I don't see how you could do anything more sinful than that. To impose a new religion on the structures of the Catholic Church, I think that is the depths of sin and exceeds anything that is against the 6th and 9th commandment or anything like that. I mean, that is just, I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not have strange gods before me. That is contrary to the very, I would just say, the dignity of God, you might say. I don't know how else to put it. It's to put strange gods in front of the true God. You know what happened to the Hebrews when that happened?
Yes, it wasn't a pleasant day for them.
No.
Another question from Father LeMay. Your Excellency, we are looking forward to your visit to Sacred Heart Church in Lawrence. We colonists are ready to warmly greet you with full honors given to you by hardy rebels. I think referring to the revolutionary history, Your Excellency, of the area. That might be a fun, just quick side question, Your Excellency. What was the Catholic Church? I know you know the answer to this, but some people might be curious about it. What was the Church's position regarding the American Revolution, and how did American Catholics?
It really had no position. I mean, the Pope never said anything about it. I mean, generally, the Church doesn't comment on changes of regime. It just wants to exist in whatever regime comes up. It just wants to do its job and be on decent terms with whoever is there. So it never commented on it. But, as far as Catholic political philosophy, my opinion is that it was not justified because it was, and I read a whole book about the mentality of the time of the colonists at the time, and they were claiming that their British rights were being violated, and their rights as British citizens were being violated. But British citizens, in order to be British citizens, must be subject to the king and to Parliament. So their argument is self-defeating. That was their argument, though. You see, that we're British citizens. And so I think that, in my opinion, that they did not make a justification for it. Also, the motive of taxation of the colonists, I think, was justified on the part of England, because the British Army was protecting the colonists in Western Pennsylvania from the Indians. And they had to have an army there, a standing army, to protect their colonists from the Indians. Well, somebody's got to pay for that. And it would seem normal that there be a taxation on the colonists in order to pay for that. I think that's normal. So, I think what there was a will to be separate from England, and these were things that were propped up, in my opinion. That's only my opinion. But the church never said anything on it, and the church always wanted to get along with the new government, etc.
But I think it has evolved over time, Your Excellency. As an American myself, I could say I feel almost a genetic predisposition to not like taxes. It's just somewhere in me. I don't like them. But as you say, the church's teaching is that it's perfectly reasonable for it to be charged. But Americans have a general.
Yes, I mean, taxation is perfectly within the power of any legitimate government. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, it has to live. It has to perform its services, the army, etc. Has to tax so to be opposed to taxation or say you can't tax us unless we say yes that's not true. The government does not have to ask the citizens if they can be taxed. The citizens have no power. They have no political power.
Pooh and Tigger's mom, $40. Thank you, mom of Pooh and Tigger. If you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat. I will try to ask it. Andrew McFarland, $10. Somewhere on the Oregon coast. Thank you for these live streams. Thank you for your support, Andrew. Please feel free to put a question in the chat, and I will see if I can get to it. Colby Dawson for $100. Thank you, Colby. Is His Excellency familiar with Integrity Magazine, a lay Catholic magazine which ran from the late 1940s to the mid 1950s? If so, does he have any comments on it?
I never heard of it.
All right, Colby. If you have some copies, you feel free to send them to His Excellency. I will try to dig up a couple and give them to him so to see what he thinks. Alexander Peterson, $10. Thank you, Alexander. Is there a danger in publicly using the term sedevacantism to describe the conclusion and principles that underlie the thesis, especially given the problems inherent in sedevacantism and its principles?
Yes and no. I mean, technically, the seat is not vacant. Somebody's sitting in it, and he has been elected to sit in it, but he doesn't have power. So sede means seat. That means where you have neither a pope-elect nor a pope. That's where the pope dies and there's just cardinals. That is a true state of sedevacantism. So sede privationism is better, but most people don't understand it. It means that the person sitting in the seat who ought to have authority doesn't have it. He's deprived of something that he should have because of his intention to impose upon the church false doctrines. See, so sede privationism is the correct thing, but we commonly use sedevacantism, and people generally understand which brand of it is.
So you don't see a reason to not use that term, Your Excellency? No,
it's so in such common use, and everybody knows where the lines are drawn on that. On the, say, totalist versus Cassisiacum.
Or dare we say conclavists, Your Excellency? Even.
Oh, gosh, no.
Can a person who is 62 years of age become a religious?
It's like that would be like trying to mold a piece of porcelain that has already been baked. There's a formation that you have to go through, and by the time you're 62, and I should know that I'm 75, you're pretty much set. in your ways, and you're not, to young people that come in their late teens, early 20s, they're ready for formation. They expect to be formed. But as you get older, you're very set in your ways, and I don't think it would work out. No,
His Excellency is saying he's not moldable or pliable
no, I never
anymore.
was really.
I would note, Rob, that in the medieval times, if your spouse passed away, there was what was known as a corrody, Corrody, and you would give your belongings to the monastery or whatever was nearby, and you would simply move in and work there. You weren't necessarily religious, but you were there living a religious life. You would go to mass, you would work, and you'd help out around the monastery. But I think that's what His Excellency is alluding to. They weren't put through religious formation. They didn't take vows in that normal way. It's late in the game to do that. But His Excellency, I mean, someone 62 years of age can still be of service to the church in another way. It doesn't have to be religious. They
Yes.
could help out at a chapel, or we always have need for help with flowers and linens. And His Excellency has a whole lot of sewing. If you are able to sew, he's got a lot of work for you to do there. So there's always need for that. We are coming up on the top of our first hour, and these live streams, I want to remind everybody, at the very most, they're 90 minutes, seminaries in session, and I don't want to be killed by Father Disposito for going too long. I do value my life at the moment. So if you
You're
are
far enough away, though, that you don't have to worry.
listen,
back.
Argentinians are resourceful, Your Excellency. I wouldn't put anything beyond them. So if you are just coming into the live stream now, please remember to hit the like button to make sure that the video gets sent out in the algorithm to subscribers of the channel. And if you haven't already done so, please let us know in the chat where you are watching from today. ABF, 14 Canadian dollars. Thank you, ABF. What should a layperson do if they have the misfortune of falling into sin and confession to a trad priest isn't readily available? Should they pray for perfect contrition? How can one be sure they're forgiven?
Yes, you should pray for perfect contrition. If you achieve perfect contrition, which is not impossible, some people think that only saints can do that. It's not true. The even mortal sin is remitted, but you still must intend to confess when you have the opportunity. Perfect contrition is sorrow for sin, for having offended the goodness of God. That's not very difficult to have. I mean, you might apologize to somebody on the street for bumping into him. You see that, then you have offended that person in some way, and so it's not as difficult. There's a very good tract on perfect contrition too that Bishop McKenna published. That is very good. So it's not as difficult as it sounds, and pray for it. And if you pray fervently for anything that concerns your spiritual life, God will grant it. And you can be morally certain of being forgiven. That means you don't have absolute certitude. Nobody has absolute certitude of the state of his soul in any case. But you could be morally certain. That means quite sure that your sins are forgiven and that you'll confess them at your first opportunity.
And His Excellency has said this on more than one occasion. It's very rare in the modern world that people are completely isolated from traditional priests, even as thinly spread as they are around the world. So consider reaching out to traditional clergy and seeing if they can't visit, or if you might not be able to visit a traditional priest. It's not completely without recourse.
Well, Canada is a big place, though.
It is. It is. Father LeMay, His Excellency is right about humiliations. I once prayed for them, and Bishop Sanborn gave me 3. He made me bell ringer of the seminary, head infirmarian, and prefect of laundry when I failed. And without hesitation, I got humiliated numerous times. Yeah,
he has the memory of an elephant. That goes back to the 1970s and 1980s. That's what he's talking about. Early 1980s.
Well, humiliation can be burned into the memory, Your Excellency.
Yes.
Juan V for $10. Thank you, Juan. We are watching from Northern California. What are your thoughts about the Ukrainian Byzantine Catholics, the Eastern Catholics? Why do they use the creed without a filioque? Can you attend them?
First of all, I don't know a lot about them. Their clergy have been infected, I know that, by modernism. They were sending their clergy to Catholic University in Washington I know that. There's many different kinds, though, so I can't say that about all of them. But I know that at least some of them were. And I don't know if you see filioque was added by the Pope in the Creed. I think it was fairly Middle Ages.
Gregory the Great, Your Excellency.
No, it was after that. Actually, okay. Yes, and so it may just be there. I don't know what the customs they had, but they may have had an ancient liturgy that didn't have it in, and the Pope didn't require them to say it for some reason. I'm guessing that. You see, but if they leave out filioque for the reason that they are anti-Roman, then they're schismatics.
The concession made in Florence Ferrara, Your Excellency, was that...
I don't know a lot about them, though.
The concession made was that they were permitted to keep the liturgy without change as long as they did not deny the teaching. That was...
Yes, well, that's what I would suspect, because filioque was not there until I think about the 900s or 1000s.
So the final question there is, actually, can you attend masses with them?
I would say no, because again, they're in union with the Novus Ordo hierarchy.
Interesting comment here from one of the watchers. I was born and raised in Krakow, Poland, received confirmation from Cardinal Wojtyła 5 months before he became JP2. I discovered Bishop Sanborn a year ago, and I'm watching from Chicago, or Chicago, as it might be said.
No, they don't say it though. I visited Krakow many times, so I am very beautiful city. It's like a Polish Rome.
Jerry Travers, $50. What is the argument for attending or not attending a Novus Ordo baptism of a grandchild?
No, you can't. The reason is that it is not only a valid sacrament. Well, we don't even know if it's a valid sacrament anymore because we don't know what they're doing. See, they have a valid rite in their books, but there's been a lot of problems with how they don't follow their own rite. So we don't even know if it's being done right. But the other aspect about baptism is that it is an entry into the church, because it's your official entry into the church. And you are entering into a false religion there. You see, so it would give an assent to the idea that you can become a Catholic by being a Novus Ordite. That would be your presence there would do that, and that you can't give that assent.
All right, Jerry. Hopefully that answers your question. Fair to remember, $12. Thank you, Fair. Taxes spent on the benefit of the taxpayer are applauded. That doesn't happen very often, unfortunately, Your Excellency.
Well, I mean, the government has the obligation of the common good of the whole country, and that's why it collects taxes. So, yes, but that doesn't mean there's no abuse. When was there no abuse in any government in the history of the world?
Roberto Jr., $10. Thank you, Roberto. Is it a sin to take Ozempic to lose weight? Are you familiar with this drug, Your Excellency?
I've heard of it, but I have no idea. I am not qualified at all to make a comment.
So let's try to make it more general. Is it a sin to take a medical substance in order to lose weight?
I can't comment on it because I don't know what they do. I don't know anything about it at all. I just can't comment.
Are you saying that if the drug were somehow harmful, that it wouldn't, that would mitigate the goodness of it?
Yes, obviously. So but again, I'm completely out to lunch on that. I have no idea what any of those drugs do.
Roberto, if you're not familiar with the English idiom, out to lunch here means His Excellency does not have an opinion,
right?
A strong opinion on this.
I don't have any knowledge about it whatsoever. That's what I mean.
I have a very, very, very small knowledge about it, Your Excellency, but I think it's effectively a shortcut in the same way that you might have gastric bypass surgery, that people feel they can't control themselves normally. So they use a drug or they use a surgery to constrict their desire for food, and therefore they don't eat as much.
Yeah, well, yes, there's nothing wrong with that, but the side effects and other effects that it might have enters into the question.
Mm. All right, Roberto. So you heard from His Excellency. You're going to have to look more deeply into this before he can answer you. Pius, €6. Thank you, Pius. One of the most sold books by Tan is Trustful Surrender to Divine Providence by Sanure and de la Colombière. Do you know this book?
Yes, it's an excellent book. I would recommend it to anybody.
There you go, Pius. That was an easy one, Your Excellency.
Mm-hmm.
LP $25. Can one attend the baptism of their niece or nephew in a Protestant church where the father of the child is a fallen away Novus Ordo Catholic? This sounds
No.
awfully specific, Your Excellency.
No, and no.
And again, why is that, Your Excellency? What are the principles here?
Well, again, it's introduction into a false church. In Novus Ordo, it's introduction into a false religion. There's a difference there.
We have a volunteer for mending and alterations, Your Excellency. So be careful what you wish for, Brie. If you're really truly interested in helping with mending or alterations, please use the contact us form, and His Excellency will screen you and interview you to see if that is possible. Boise, Idaho, Presque Isle, Michigan. Is Presque Isle, Michigan?
They call it Presque Isle.
Oh, they call it Presque Isle. Is that in the UP? Where is that, Your Excellency?
I'm trying to remember where that is. I can't remember where it is. It's been a long time since I lived in Michigan, but
we have someone currently in Kansas making my way to Pennsylvania for my honeymoon from a Braden Kelly, someone you might know.
Oh, Braden Kelly, yes, former seminarian.
$50 from Joseph Barden. No questions tonight, just our deepest thanks. Thank you for your contribution, Joseph. That is appreciated. Do you think someone with autism could enter the religious life?
It depends on the effect of the autism. I mean, some people are deeply affected by it. Some people are not very affected by it. And I would say it depends on the severity of it. I know one person that is affected only by an occasional stutter, but some are very deeply affected by it.
Fair to remember, $10. Thank you, Stephen, for the humiliation and correcting my grammar. Fair, I'm sorry I have to add the humiliation by correcting your spelling. That grammar is spelled with two M's.
It's like 2 gold coins today.
Presque Isle is north of Alpena on Lake Huron. Presque Isle, sorry.
Well, yes, north of Alpena. Yes, I should have known that because I used to say Mass in Alpena.
Maine, Youngstown, Ohio. There's another question here. All right, so we are getting towards the end of today's stream. If you have additional questions to ask His Excellency, please make sure to put them in the chat now, sooner rather than later. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap up in the next 5 minutes or so, and His Excellency will get back to wrapping up the day in the United States. Your Excellency, obviously, you just noted in the stream that you'll be going to Massachusetts here not too long. Mm-hmm. Are there any other travels that you have on the docket in the next 30, 60, 90 days that you know of?
I'm going to Italy in November to see the priests of the IMBC. I haven't been there since 2018, and we have a very good relationship with them, and I thought I would pay them a friendly visit. And also I promised Father Corradello that I would come to his ordination, and I never did. So I'm a little late, probably about only 5 years late, but I'm going over there for that reason too. And then I'm going to Rome for a day, not to see anybody there, but just to see Gamarelli, because I need some bishop's clothes.
Well, I would love the paparazzi spotting. You're actually Bishop Sanborn spotted in Rome, question mark.
Yes.
Who knows what's going on.
So no, it's just about a 5-day trip to, but other than that, I don't have anything in particular, no.
For those who don't know, Your Excellency, what is Gamarelli?
Gamarelli is we're going to say the Gucci of ecclesiastical attire, in the sense that they are at the top of ecclesiastical attire. And there are certain things that they make that bishops need. You see, as many times you just can't get the same thing over here. And so once in a while you have to visit. And also I'm 2 inches shorter than the last time they measured me, because you get shorter as you get older. I'm tripping over all of my cassocks. And so I need to be remeasured by them. So I need to order some things from them. So.
Time and gravity are pushing down on you, Your Excellency.
That's true, yes. Worries and troubles.
Someone once told me that getting old is for the birds.
It's for the birds, yes.
Swamp and Tea, an Englishman in Florida. I can't imagine who that is.
I wonder who that is.
If I accept that the Novus Ordo is a false religion, can I pray the rosary with my SSPX family members? It would seem that there is a danger of confusion of religions if I do so.
Well, I would say this, that I think that all of the SSPX people are in good conscience. And when you are adhering to something false, like a heresy, in good conscience, you don't fall out of the church. It's just, you just don't know what you should know, but it doesn't exclude you from the church if you are in good conscience. So I would say they're still Catholics. And as long as there is no confusion of, I would say, the positions, in other words, where, where the idea that the Novus Ordo is okay, or we want to be part of the Novus Ordo, I don't see a problem there. But, again, it's hard to say because I don't know all the circumstances.
Jimmy Hunjin for 10 pounds. Thank you, Jimmy. Bishop Sanborn should have brought his cat Leo. Might make headlines in Rome.
Well, every time I say Leo now, I have to distinguish. I always say it's not my cat. It's that person in Rome. And but Leo for me has been the cat for so long.
Right. Has His Excellency baptized anyone who has then joined the seminary or become a traditional priest?
I have. Well, do you mean as a baby? That's a question? I'm not sure.
The question's open-ended.
Well, I don't know, because I've baptized so many people in my 50 years. I can't remember all the people that I baptized, but I think so. I would imagine so. But what we do when we have young men come in, we verify their baptisms to see if their baptisms were valid. And if there's any doubt about it, we redo the baptism conditionally. Because if you are not validly baptized, you are not truly a priest. And that is a bigger and bigger problem now. See, so we are very careful about that. Nobody gets to our altar who is not certainly validly baptized.
Jimmy noted that that's the Catholic Leo. The cat is the Catholic Leo that you're talking about.
Oh, he's 100% Catholic, definitely.
All right. Thank you very much, watchers and listeners. If you're watching this on the replay, reminder that the comments are not necessarily monitored by clergy. So if you have questions, don't put them into the comments and think they'll be answered by clergy. Use the email contact form on rcinstitute.org to ask specific questions regarding. And always remember, when it's a very specific personal question that isn't something that should be asked on the internet anyway, you should just ask that using a contact us form. Bill Kelly, $20. God bless His Excellency. Well, God bless you, Your Excellency. And a reminder that this same time tomorrow, we will be doing Leo Watch episode 3. Again, a live version. We're not certain whether it will continue to be live going forward, but at least over the summer, we have been doing it. So if you would like to see a live stream that's more focused specifically on Leo, not the cat, we will be doing that this time tomorrow. 6 p.m. United States time, midnight in Europe, and 8 a.m. in Melbourne, Florida. Your Excellency, as always, thank you for
Melbourne, Florida? You mean Melbourne?
Melbourne, Florida. My brain went back right like a spring, Your Excellency. Melbourne, Australia, 8 a.m. the following day. But thank you for spending some time with us today, Your Excellency, and we will see you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.